Welcome back, Dungeon Masters. Today we're diving into a topic that every DM either fears or secretly adores, and I personally just flat out love: creating dumb NPCs that steal the show. That's right, those quirky, lovable, or maybe slightly irritating Boblin the Goblin types that bring levity, chaos, and unforgettable moments to your Dungeons & Dragons game. I'm John, forever DM and adventure writer at Dumbest D&D, and by the end of this video, you'll have 12 surefire ways to craft NPCs that your players will talk about long after the campaign ends. I've also got a quick list of traits you can start using today to get your NPCs off the ground at the end of this video. Alright, let's get rolling. Many great dumb NPCs start with some sort of gimmick. Maybe they're a merchant who only sells one thing, like ball bearings or mirrors, and is confused why newer adventurers aren't buying them. Or a bard who can only play one song, does so terribly, but they insist it's a masterpiece. The key here is commitment. Dumb NPCs live and breathe their gimmick, and their over-the-top dedication will have your players in stitches. Think Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys. Everything ties back to kitties at the end of the day. What makes an NPC dumb isn't just low intelligence stat, it's their flaws. Maybe they're overly gullible, maybe they're a terrible gambler, maybe they're constantly distracted or hopelessly clumsy. Flaws are funny when they lead to consequences, especially when they are consequences that affect the party, like spilling secrets to the villain or bringing the enemy of the party directly to the party's secret hideout. Well, you said you needed to find him. The endearing flaws can even become a point of frustration for the party, putting them in the middle of some moral dilemmas of what they end up doing with this NPC. Pick one personality trait and crank it up to 11. If they're optimistic, maybe they're unreasonably to the point of irritation optimistic, like, oh, we're falling into a pit of spikes? I've got too much blood in my body anyway. If they're curious, they're poking everything. If they're a mild kleptomaniac, they definitely stole that cursed item in the last dungeon where they were tagging along. Maybe they even dip into an odd trance mid-conversation where they ask the party to like and subscribe if they're enjoying this conversation. This exaggeration makes the NPC memorable and gives your players something to latch onto, even if it's just groaning every time the character opens their mouth. You can also consider using a silly voice or an accent, whether it is Cockney British accent. No, I reckon you'll find your dragon over there in that swamp. Silly voice does have to work for you in some cases. A dramatic pirate droll, or a wandering accent that changes from one language to another because it ended up being a tougher voice than you expected, and as a DM you can say, well, it was all part of their character anyway. They are from all over the place. However you do this, it helps bring your dumb NPC to life in a way that words on a page just can't. While we're on the subject of speech, give your NPCs a dramatic monologue. One of my favorite NPCs from our Ghost of Saltmarsh campaign was a wheelwright named Darius, who needed to fix the party's wagon wheel, and yes, his last name was Rucker. Excellent at his job, but would absolutely talk the ear off the party. I tend to present a monologuing NPC as a 1,000-yard stare, making an extremely dramatic speech about an extremely mundane moment in their life. It was then that I knew I was destined to be a wheelwright. As the heavens broke and the light shone down on me, the repair, the creation, and the destruction of wheels was my belonging. Something along those lines. In this case, the party abandoned the wagon completely and looked for another way to get home. You can also base the entire existence of an NPC on a pun. When we crafted Gene and Jean Applebottom, halfling cobblers that were creating a fur-covered boot, there wasn't much to their story. They were just the Applebottom jeans making the boots with the fur. Groans from the table, but of course the party is going to remember these two, and you've just created a set of quest givers that, well, dumb, you can plant that into your party and they can always go back to the Applebottom jeans. Mileage may vary on puns, but I love these so much. And if you've seen any of our shorts, and any of these videos that we have, you'll know that we also have a lot more NPCs. I'll link to them in the description. Make the NPCs blissfully unaware. The best ones are often oblivious to what's really going on. The world around them is crumbling, but Tim the Tailor really needs to keep his business afloat. A lich is raising an undead army marching toward town? Yeah, but these suits aren't going to sell themselves. Maybe they think the party's rogue is their long-lost cousin, or they confidently give the wrong directions to the villain's lair. This cluelessness can lead to hilarious situations where the players have to work around their nonsense. It can also be a stark reminder that while D&D does revolve around the party, the world they play in doesn't always see it that way. This means you don't always have to put up with some of the shenanigans as well. As I said before, dumb doesn't mean useless. Some of the most beloved NPCs are unexpectedly good at something, usually just one stark thing. Maybe the bumbling stable hand can flawlessly mimic any animal noise, or the scatterbrained alchemist brews potions that actually work. Sometimes too well, in fact. Even the gruffest meathead blacksmith can serenade the nastiest of creatures with his golden voice. These surprises keep the party on their toes and can sometimes pop in as a convenient deus ex machina if the party gets into a jam. End of the day, it's also okay if the NPCs steal the spotlight, as long as it's just briefly. Dumb NPCs work best in small doses. Give them 1 or 2 moments to shine, interrupting a serious moment with an ill-timed joke, bungling their way into helping during combat, or dramatically misunderstanding the villain's evil monologue, then gracefully bow them out so the players don't remove them from the storyline altogether, if you know what I mean. But also be a little careful in terms of serious conversations. That could have a negative effect overall with the party. Trust yourself and your table to know when it is time for that ill-timed joke. Every NPC, even the dumb ones, needs a reason to exist in the world. Maybe they're the tavern keeper's overenthusiastic nephew, or the king's ex-jester who is now trying to find his life's purpose in retirement. After all, once you remove a farting jester from the 4 walls of a king's court, he's just some schlub with a bad gut biome. A good backstory doesn't just make the character more believable, it gives your players a reason to care about them. A retired knight who gave up his sword to write his autobiography is dumb, but infinitely more interesting than some of the standard tropes out there. So take that base idea and just bump it up a few clicks. NPCs are at their best when they're loyal to the party for no logical reason. Think Stilgar's unwavering loyalty to Paul Atreides in Dune. Maybe they've declared themselves the party squire, or they believe they owe the cleric a life debt because they gave them a sandwich or something once. Loyalty makes them lovable and creates opportunities for comedic devotion. You can spend hours trying to create the perfect moment to make the party cry, but I guarantee when the stupidly loyal NPC Boney Soprano sacrifices himself to save a member of the party in an unnecessary moment, there's not going to be a dry eye at the table. Finally, let your players interact with the NPC in ways that create the comedy. Maybe they decided to teach the NPC how to fight, and they roll a critical failure. Or they send them on ridiculous errands like fetching a left-handed wrench. Dumb NPCs shine brightest when they're part of the collaborative storytelling experience. And here's a bonus, and I don't know why this is fun, but I have all my NPCs sprint away when they're leaving a conversation. This gag managed to stick around throughout my entire Ghost of Saltmarsh campaign and never failed to at least get a small chuckle from the table. Again, no idea why that works. Still not sure how to craft a memorable but ridiculous NPC in your game? Here's a quick list of traits, backstories, and quirks that can make them fun. Obnoxiously loud, even in quiet situations. Goodbye stealth missions. Straight-laced and uptight, but gets drunk and spills all the local gossip. Obnoxiously quiet, their voice always at a whisper. Has strong opinions about unimportant topics. And that's why books should be bound with werebear fur. Running for office on an unimportant platform like better doorknobs for every home. Looking for their long-lost twin, but is convinced that they are shape-shifting to not look like their twin, so asks leading questions to assess everyone. Overly arrogant when they very obviously have no reason to be. Extraordinarily talented, but stuck in a boring job. Think a high-level wizard who is needed to lift townsfolk over a crevice that's opened in the street. Someone seeking revenge on a low CR creature, like a goose that bit their hand when they were a child. Altered lycanthropy. Every full moon they turn into a goose because of that bite that they got when they were a child. Very clearly in a cult, even though they swear they're not in a cult. A gladiator who has never lost a fight, but that's because they've never actually been in a fight. Easily distracted and wanders off at inopportune times. Self-proclaimed Nostradamus with a history of incorrectly predicting the end of days, but is really sure about it this time. If you're interested in more ridiculous backstories, traits, or quirks, let me know in the comments, because I could go on and on and on. This is one of my favorite parts of D&D. But there you have it. 12 ways to craft dumb NPCs that steal the show. Remember, the goal isn't to derail your campaign or take the spotlight away from the players. It's to create moments of levity and connection to make your game unforgettable. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your party. And hey, tell me in the comments about the dumbest NPC you've ever created or encountered. Love to hear your stories. Till next time, roll high, stay ridiculous, and thanks for watching.